Good blood pressure medicine, good heart rates, good, technically Buffalo Bills win in evening to all of you. You are joining Greg Tompsett, the host of the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, uh, how is your cardiovascular health?
I just checked the heart rate before coming on because I could feel it like pounding through my chest, my shoulders, my neck. It didn't get too high, but a very, very sporadic evening of heart rate up and downs. No, this team's terrible for my health, Greg. I quit doing those breakfast sandwiches this year because my cholesterol is a little on the elevated side. It's not the cholesterol, it's the bills. The bills are what is bad for me.
Yeah, they tried to kill me.
Ooh, so why did they try to kill us, Greg? Tell the people why they are here hanging out with us tonight.
You are joining us tonight because the Buffalo Bills have defeated technically the New York Giants 14-9. They went into the fourth quarter with 0 points. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They had multiple opportunities to put this away, and it literally came down to one untimed down at the goal line with 1st and goal at the 1-yard line with 0 seconds on the clock, because on the previous play there was defensive pass interference in the end zone, which good Darren Waller sold well. He did a good job, and got them one more untimed down. And just so many stupid, the Arizona Hail Mary, the stupid Vikings game, just so many Billsy games in the past rushing through your mind. And as Nick Lowe here says, yo, can I breathe yet? I let out like such a genuine exhale of relief after that. Like, it didn't feel joy. I didn't feel excitement. I didn't pump my fist. I just went, Jesus. Like, it's over. We won. I put out a tweet, this week, the top 4 Super Bowl favorites in betting odds. Kansas City had a horrible game against Denver. They found a way to win. San Francisco had a horrible game against the Cleveland Browns. They lost. Philadelphia had a horrible game against the Jets. They lost. The Bills had a horrible game against the Giants. They found a way to win. They're all going to count the same at the end. But this one, it doesn't feel good. Nobody should feel great about this win, but it is a win, and they're going to move on.
I was excited at the end, just because Taryn made a play.
He did
save that, and even though I predicted a big victory, everyone was, you buy into the Vegas thing, like winning is still hard. And this type of game, for them to be able to come away with it because of all those things that you mentioned, the way that they've gone in the past, they don't end up going the Bills' way, especially when it's that type of situation where they're so close to scoring. And I just felt like it was going to pop at any point, or Tyrod was going to just run one in at any point. For them to be able to get it, it just felt, this whole night really just reminded me of watching primetime games during the drought, just knowing at any point, like, this is just not going to go my way tonight. And then finally at the end, it does. To your point, it was part just like, relief, but the defense really did step up in a couple big spots in this game and make some big plays to be excited about. But man, what a laboring effort for the Bills today to just squeak by in this one. But to your point, Greg, too, I say this almost every day on the golf course when I'm there, because I'm not a very good golfer, but I'll hit like a chunk shot and it will still go straight and like end up being a decent shot. And it's like, hey, nobody counts how you get there. You just got to get there. And at the end of the year, no one's going to go back and be like, well, they barely got by the Giants. They're just going to count the win totals, right? So end of the day, you still got the dub.
Yeah, we'll go through some of the different pieces here. There's not going to be a lot of exciting, great things. None of the stat lines look great. Josh Allen was 19 of 30 for 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, because he did throw 2 critical touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and 1 interception. Was never sacked. Like, I don't feel like the Giants like did this to us. Like, they weren't imposing their will. They had the one really good run play drive where they hit a bunch of weird trap plays over and over again, and we couldn't adjust mid-drive. That was weird. But other than that, it just felt like I kept sitting there be like, how are we letting them sit in this game? We'd get a drive going, and then we'd get a sack and a penalty, and then we get a drive going and we get a fumble, and then we get a drive going. It just, we kept doing stupid, weird things. And
Wink dialed up some good pressures in some key moments, but yeah, it didn't feel like they were pushing us around or dictating anything to the Bills. Yeah, it was just like it's the same thing in Jacksonville though. A lot of self-inflicted mistakes,
yeah,
sloppy plays. Uh, I hate to say bad play calling, but questionable spots where we listen to Eric and Ant, and running out of shotgun versus under center, you're not as efficient. They just stayed in shotgun a lot. It just questionable, kind of what your face is right now, Greg. I had that same look kind of throughout the evening. Yeah.
yeah. I will say shout out to Bobby Okereke. He played
Oh my
fantastic.
god. Yeah.
One of the better linebacker performances we've seen all season. He, not single-handedly, but very strongly kept them in that game. Bryant here saying, I was thinking the game was over when we got the turnover on downs with a minute 45. Yeah, we'll go through that. We'll go through that when we do our stretch by the drives here as we go through. But yeah, shout out to Okereke. Some others on the Giants defense played well. Shout out to Saquon Barkley for his first game back healthy, and
Mhm.
wasn't super efficient, but had that awesome drive and had some tough runs. And honestly, Tyrod Taylor played smart.
It was a
He's
very Tyrod game, right?
yeah,
Like the
like
most Tyrod.
a terrible offensive line, and he was able to move around, only took 3 sacks, and he got hit another 5 times on top of that, but was able to kind of not throw any horrible, didn't throw any interceptions, was able to keep himself in decent spot. And good lord, it just was a tough game to watch. But again, they found a way to win. And
Mhm.
at the end of the season, all we'll remember is, hey, they found a way to win. They're 4-2, and they're gonna keep themselves in position for what the end goals are.
Yeah, and not that we have to beat the dead horse of that Tyrod, but it is such a Tyrod moment in a game
Yes,
because he did
yes,
play pretty clean, right? 24-36, 200 yards, 80 passer rating,
yeah,
no balls even really attempted for a pick. Like Bills didn't really get their hands on. Like he's not going to throw picks, he's going to play
yeah.
safe, but he's not going to score touchdowns. He's not going to get your points on the board. Like he's not going to finish those drives.
Had the 2 really nice Tyrod deep balls that he
Yeah,
dropped it over the top,
yeah,
dropped it in the bucket. He always
for
had that in his
sure. It
bag.
was a super Tyrod game, but then the difference is Josh Allen was playing a pretty terrible game, but at the end, his quarterback rating's better, and he put a couple bit risky
Yeah,
throws out there that ended up being those big plays. And that's really where the NFL is like you do have to have a guy that is willing to make
yeah,
some of those throws sometimes because that's in a game like this, the margins are so slim that you got to be able to take those risks to get points on the board. And luckily, the Bills do have that gunslinger that at any point can get some real points on the board and make up for this Giants offense going down, getting a bunch of field goal drives versus, hey, we only got to score twice to
yeah.
make up for that difference. So,
Yeah, and the run game was working. We ended up, 29 carries for 128 yards without breaking any big ones. They averaged 4.4 yards a carry against a team that actually has 2 stellar defensive tackles. That is not easy to run against. The receiving was incredibly Stefon Diggs heavy. He had 12 targets in the first half, four targets in the second half, but ended up with 10 receptions for 100 yards. You had the really nifty orbit motion that they've been setting up all season long, gave Deontay Hardy kind of a walk-in touchdown. And then, like you talked about, the willingness to make those big plays. Quentin Morris, his first target all season was a crazy rolling to your right, throwing back across your body, lasering it in between 2 defenders that Quentin Morris just had to like protect himself by catching into the end zone. And I don't know. Gabe Davis obviously didn't have a great game and had the fumble that hurt. So not a strong game for Mr. Davis, but just I don't know that. I mean, Diggs had 10 for 100 yards. That's a good game by anyone's standards. I don't know that anybody had like a great game today. James Cook
no, James Cook
looked
had a pretty
good.
good, yeah.
Latavius Murray looked good a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, I think Terrell Bernard probably had
Yeah, okay,
a great
okay,
game. Maybe
okay.
Taron Johnson, but like
Yeah, Gregory Rousseau
Gregory
had
Rousseau had a really
some
good
really
game.
nice
Leonard
flash
Floyd
plays.
had a really nice start to the game.
I won't lie,
Actually, a
would have
couple big pressures.
liked to have heard Ed Oliver's name a little more. He's been
Sure.
awesome this season and was oddly quiet today.
Mhm.
Um, I don't remember a lot of negative plays from Dorian Williams. Like you'd said, his first start, we weren't sure we were going to get. I don't remember a lot of frustration or like, oh man. Had a couple of those moments with Kyer Elam, but fewer than the previous game. I'm still ready for Dane Jackson to come back. So overall, I think that you're right. The guys
Yeah.
like Terrell Bernard, Gregory Rousseau would probably be there for a player of the game
Mhm.
kind of thing, but Bob here switched his hat in the fourth quarter. Really appreciate him figuring out the right hat. I came up and put this sweatshirt on at halftime, and I didn't have my daughter's bracelet on, so I put those on at halftime. So it made me feel better.
Well, then good work, guys, doing your 1 to 11. I appreciate that. Before we get into drives and stuff, real quick, I'm all the way out on Kyer Elam right now in terms of like outside of him coming in for spot duty because somebody's
Yeah,
hurt. Like he's too grabby. That one big 34-yard Saquon Barkley run, he just got ran over
yeah.
and blocked out of that play. He's just, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what, but I was willing to give him a little bit of a leash, man. But I don't know. I've seen enough. And I can't tell if it's, I mean, I'm sure he had a number of good plays in that game. Definitely at the end there was that one coverage on a deep ball to Jalen Hyatt, and he was right there in good coverage and he didn't allow that
Sure,
catch to be
sure.
made. So I'll give him credit on that one. But the coach has got to be seeing something, or maybe they just don't believe in Jamarcus Ingram to have put him out there. But I thought he did enough to, if you had another option to
Yeah,
play that you felt confident in, that you would have played him. And so tough one for me
yeah.
to swallow there with Kyer, but I was hoping that over these couple of weeks, a guy like him would maybe find that confidence and catch that and start running with it, but didn't show up tonight.
Yeah, and obviously, I think we're fortunate that it was against Darius Slayton and
Yeah,
not Kelvin Ridley this
for
week, or
sure.
better. Like we're going to face better receivers than
Yeah.
Kelvin Ridley. So obviously, plenty to be done there. I know a lot of people. I even saw some of the chat here saying we need to go get Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain is not getting traded. Denver is not going to trade him. And if it did, it's going to be for 2 firsts and a second. It's going to
Yeah.
be for more than what Jalen Ramsey got, and no team's going to give that up. So, maybe there's a guy, Dante Jackson out of Carolina. There's some other guys that'll come in, but honestly, it's probably going to be Christian Benford and Dane Jackson.
Yeah.
We just need Dane to be healthy. If he's not, maybe they do need to go out there and make a move, but unfortunately, it's not going to be for some 22-year-old all pro.
Hopefully it's
That's
not
just
Josh Norman also.
Jesus, yeah, I hope not. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
This game started really weird. So the Bills come out. The Giants win the toss and they defer. So there's no double dip on the menu. And the Bills come out, actually have a shot where Gabe Davis was open on the setup and their feet got tangled. And of course, later on, the referee comes in and says, yeah, the defender didn't look back for the ball. That should have been a penalty, but it wasn't. So it ends up being a quick 3 and out. They go right back hold the Giants to a 3 and out as well. So no harm, no foul. And then the offense starts to look like itself. We actually saw some interesting usage of David Edwards, a bunch of him as the 6th lineman, kind of since they didn't have Dalton Kincaid in their 12 personnel, they used a bunch more jumbo personnel. And I'm curious when we go back to be able to see what the I'm curious to be able to see what that looked like with how often it was. It felt like a lot early, but I wasn't like tick mark tracking it to see how often. And a couple times he was even like running motion, like literally from a tight end set as they were coming across. They started working through, and that's when Gabe had the fumble and gave the Giants the ball, almost at midfield. And when you're facing an offense that can't get much going, you can't give them a chance to do that.
No, and that fumble is just totally unacceptable. Eric tweeted it out that like, and I commented on his tweet on it is you got to get the ball in the other hand. Like it's almost introduction to football pee-wee stuff for running backs. Like if you're running along the sideline, don't keep your hand or the ball in that left hand. You got to move it over. And that was a good punch out by the defender, but just you got to be more heads up and have security of the ball for Gabe, especially with how little targets he gets, right? Like we know he's not going to get a ton of targets. You're going to get those plays when you get them and you're running with the ball. You got to be a little bit better with that. And so that one was frustrating because you're right, Greg, that we were in the Cover One DM group talking about like how frustrating it was. And I was like, man, guys, though, like there's some weird things. You got tripped, you get this fumble, like the offense is there. We're going to pop at any minute. But then I kept saying that as you guys were continually to get frustrated. But at this point in the game, though, it was like,
Sure.
you know what?
Sure.
Some of the stuff's kind of out of our control. Josh looks calm. We're able to get some plays going here. We're getting 9-yard plays, things like that. We're moving the ball. We just got to kind of put it together. Well, let's see. The Giants get the ball here. And this was their first scoring drive after that.
Yeah, and that was where, again, it kind of looked like we had them shut down again. We get them to 3rd and long. It looks like, okay, they're not going to be able to put a thing together. And it was one of those plays where Tyrod drops it in the bucket and, hits Darius Slayton over the top of Kaiir Elam, 27 yards, gets him down to the 26. And, again, they're kind of able to get things stymied and held again. You get they barely convert again on a 3rd down, get it down close. The Bills do get a sack here. Leonard Floyd gets a really nice sack, a timely one, and are able to get a stop. But, we saw the one where Ed gets an unnecessary roughness penalty by headbutting.
That was kind
the
of
guy.
a whack. It was barely a head. Like, you see that happen a lot where, like, they came face to face. I didn't feel like it was a direct headbutt. Maybe I'm just a Homer fan, but
it wasn't the most egregious thing I've ever seen. It was also dumb. Like, it was unnecessary. Like, there wasn't.
Well, they didn't
anything...
call the punch at the beginning of the game. There's a little bit of lacking consistency there. If you're going to let a guy punch a guy, but then a guy just kind of like rubs face masks, talking.
Yeah,
smack.
The one at the beginning, they just called offsetting on 2 other guys, and just because they were going to call offsetting anyways, it wouldn't have mattered. They were going to call offsetting penalties. They just didn't
also
list off all the
change.
names.
We
Correct.
had a 3-1 offsetting penalty in this game. We can't do that anymore, NFL.
Yeah. Padden here saying we saw it and talked about it in the cover one in our private DM group. You could see Josh reach at his shoulder when he fell. So you saw it early, and we kept watching, and he kept playing. But it sounds like he went into the extra room after the game and mentioned it here. I'm assuming this is in the post-game presser. But we'll see where all of that goes. Obviously, that's the season. So I am going to assume that with the way that he finished the game and how he played, that we're not talking about anything super serious, but obviously you have no idea. We'll see where that goes.
He also threw that like 80-yard bomb after.
Yeah, you're right. After he strained his UCL, he threw an 80-yard Hail Mary that was ridiculous and hit.
But to your point,
Gabe Davis in the chest.
Went through a halftime, there's a period of time where if it was a substantial injury,
inflammation and issues would have held up. We're going to get to it here. Some of these Giants drives kept the team off the field for a long time. This one of those, 12 plays, 45 yards. Really the only legitimate threat they had was that 127-yarder that they dropped in the bucket to Slayton, but they held the ball for 6 minutes and they got the first points on the board. And again, kind of felt like they had it going. The Bills come back, go to Stefon Diggs. Awesome producer Chris Kepner just sent us this stat here. Next Gen Stats had it that Diggs was targeted on 53.3% of his routes, the highest target rate in a game this season out of anybody. And he was on pace for an insane, like, Terrell Owens type statistical game where he had 12 in the first half. But good Lord, it was rough there.
Yeah, but you get that 28-yarder and you're feeling good. Like, they put up 3, and we're going to get explosive.
Murray comes right back and hits a 10-yarder, and we're already at their 37 in the first 2 plays. Like, okay, all right, we're going to kind of put this away and be able to take care of business. Then we get an incompletion. Then we get a short check down for no gain. Then another incompletion with pressure from Bobby Okereke. And then here, obviously, I think it proved out correct later. I was furious in the moment that they punted from the 37-yard line.
Yep.
And that I get it, 4th and 10, you're in the weird no man's land where I don't know, like, going for it at 4th and 10 isn't a high probability play. I feel like Tyler Bass is automatic. And at this point, I'm furious about it. Now, afterwards, we see Tyler Bass miss 2 53-yard field goals with, I don't know if it was just I know you had mentioned it was pretty windy. He had missed a kick all season and has been automatic. So they punt in a situation that felt terrible. In hindsight, I guess I get it because they must have watched him in warmups and he must not have had it. And 55 was So the line was somewhere there around
Yeah.
53 because we attempted 2 53-yarders later. We didn't attempt this 55-yarder. In hindsight, I take it back. They knew what they were doing. It's still punting from the 37-yard line feels horrible,
Yeah,
even if I
in the
don't
moment.
have a better alternative.
For sure. I think we disagreed a little bit. I wasn't like pounding the table for the punt or anything like that, but in that moment, the problem is I think a lot of people were upset with the play before, the third down play, and that they weren't playing to get the field goal. And I think I agree with you here, because in the Cover One Slack, or in the Cover One DM group, you and I were saying you don't play for the field goal on that third down. You are going for the first down, right? You're playing for the 10 yards on third down, and so trying
anybody
to get
who wanted them to try to get 5 yards, no, that's not. We have
that's
that
not
challenge.
the play.
You try to convert every third down.
Correct. Yeah, and so that didn't work out, and so you're in a weird position. And my gut reaction was, it did rain all day, even though we didn't see a lot of rain during the game. It was a wet day here in Western New York, and it wasn't really windy, but it's always a little bit windy, especially down by the stadium. And so my thought was McDermott must have had a line pre-game, because they made that decision pretty quick too to go out and punt. It wasn't something they were hemming and hawing over. And so to your point, it probably was a cutoff right at that 53, 54 yards of what they saw from him and the comfort level they had, whatever, the surface and the wind and how he was kicking tonight. And it did end up coming to fruition later that it was probably the right decision, because man, I haven't seen Bass miss 2 field goals. Like, a weird night overall, but definitely weird for Bass. Because you're right, Greg. Like, normal conditions, normal game, that feels automatic to me when you get within that under 60 yards with Bass almost.
Yeah. And it's, we get spoiled, and I know, weather conditions do play a factor. I also want to feel like he's automatic no matter what in late season with weather conditions and all the pieces that go into it. But okay, I get it.
And those are big kicks, even though he makes them and we get spoiled that he can make some of those. Those are big. Those big boy kicking 55 in any conditions.
We trade 3 straight 3-and-outs back and forth here. So we get an AJ Epinesa that ends 1, but then we have it and we go 3-and-out again with some lost yardage and then a penalty and then missing on a deep shot and going through. We get in the back. We get the Giants 3-and-out again, and it's just kind of an ugly slog of a game. And then, we do start to get a little something going here. We get a 14-yard run from James Cook, another 14-yard run from James Cook, back-to-back 14-yard runs. He's looking great. A 3-yard run. Like, all right, we got a little something going here. Then we get incomplete to Diggs, an incomplete deep shot to Diggs. Like, all right, that's fine. At least get some points on the board. And Tyler Bass misses 52 yards wide right. And it's like, okay. All right. And that's where, again, I guess that's where it came into play. And they're just in this weird spot where they feel more explosive. The Giants haven't really done anything to them. It's felt like self-inflicted for the most part, and we're losing. And then the Giants come out and put together a decent drive. They get 8 yards to Wan'Dale Robinson, a 20-yarder to Darren Waller. They get another conversion to Wan'Dale Robinson when they had a chance to kind of hold them back, but because of the spot where the missed field goal was, they were already in decent shape. They get a little bit of a scramble and they get into a spot here where they're down and kick another field goal to go up 6. And like, the Bills defense is doing our normal bend but don't break thing, and we're not giving up touchdowns, and that's fine. But like, how are we giving up multiple scoring drives to the Giants and we're not scoring? It just felt like challenging and difficult when I didn't expect that.
Yeah, up until the missed field goal, I was still on that vibe of like, hey, we're gonna pop at any point.
It's just a moment.
Right? Like,
it's just
and in my mind, I'm thinking this is gonna be one of those games where at second quarter here, halftime, Bills explode, and the end of the game is still whatever, 28-6, and we forget all about that first quarter and a half that was just sloppy. Unfortunately, it didn't continue on that way, but I did feel at least confident in, even though Tyrod was making some good throws and converting first downs, the Giants offense felt just as toothless as the Bills offense did. Although the Bills were kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and the Giants were Okorike was making some really good plays. A lot of those plays that stalled these drives were actually good throws, and Josh had guys open. Okorike just got his hand on a ball and just got tipped something away. And that's a tough pill to swallow when you call the right play, you get the look you want, you have a decent throw for it, and the defender just makes a better play. And so that was a tough pill to swallow. But on the offensive side of the ball, I didn't feel like at any point that as long as they just kept giving up field goals, that we were going to score at some point. And so I still felt good, even though they come down and go up 6-0. It just didn't feel like the Tyrod Taylor led Giants offense was going to be able to stop the Bills from doing the bend but don't break type of thing.
Yeah, and like you said, the one tip that came up, they get the drive going again, they go down, and we get the one panic moment where Kyle Allen has to come in and hand off a couple times, and we see, as Patton had brought up earlier, the reaching for the shoulder there and getting the anxiety and start to move it down the field. We get the horrible moment where we see Damian Harris not moving. And we were pretty panicked in our staff chat there, where I didn't see a move. Like, I didn't see any movement of any extremity. And thank God we saw the thumbs up. We heard about movement in the extremities, and it's still very scary. It's still a very scary neck injury. I pray that he's, healthy
Elizabeth
and
has a good
okay.
one here, similar maybe to the Dane when Dane was taken
Yeah,
last year.
where that bent crazy backwards in the game against the Titans, I think it was.
Probably, yep.
I think so. Yeah, it's a great call. Elizabeth has a good reference. So that kind of took the steam out of things for the moment here, and then
But then right after
again,
you get a 19-yarder to Diggs, like, you felt like, okay, like maybe this is a rallying call for them or something. But
and then they at that point, that was Diggs' 12th target of the first half, and they finally go to try to fit in a ball to Dawson Knox, and it was going to. It looked good, like it was going to be right there, and again, Bobby Okereke gets his hand in there, tips it up into the air,
night.
and Micah McFadden is there. So both times Okereke punched the ball out from Gabe. McFadden picked it up. Here, Okereke tips the ball up in the air. McFadden picks it off. And again, we give the Giants more momentum and energy. And in these games where you're a heavy favorite, the same thing in those games I referenced earlier, where, Denver is probably the worst team in the league, and Casey let them hang around. And San Francisco was a juggernaut, and they let the Browns hang around. And the Eagles are, just slowly killing everybody. And they let the Jets hang around. Once you let the other team of 53 professional athletes get it in their heads that, like, oh, hey, we can hang with these guys, we can win, well, then they're going to, because they're 53 paid professional athletes. And if you don't take the steam out of them very quickly, you get these games. And then we saw the top 4 Super Bowl favorites play 4 ugly games.
Yeah, and those teams, the bottom feeder teams, they're coming after you. They know, they see the Vegas spread. They see the way everyone's talking. Every team in the league is giving the Niners, the Bills, the Eagles, Miami their best shot, because those are the best teams, and you want to come out and give them the best shot. And so, yeah, you can't give those teams any life, because they will rally around it. But Greg, dude, this first half offense for the Bills, I'm going to read it off to you. The first drive, 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. Next drive, 6 plays, 40 yards, fumble. Next drive, 5 plays, 38 yards, punt. Next drive, 3 plays, -4 yards, punt. 6 plays, 31 yards, missed field goal. 5 plays, 29 yards, interception. They didn't even get over a 6-play drive throughout that entire.
They never entered the red zone.
Never entered the red zone. Yeah, it was just total garbage. Blast, yeet it into the, I think yeeted. Is that what Uber is telling me today?
We both learned more about that word today.
Yeah,
what it
definitely
means. Yes, we needed
that
to
first half all the way
half.
out of here.
But
somehow, the Giants made it look worse.
Somehow the worst part of the first half wasn't the Bills offense. It was
That's the
so
game
funny
right here too now in hindsight.
In hindsight, 3 points would have been awful helpful for the New York Giants when you're down there at the end, down by 5. And if you had those 3 points and could have kicked a game-winning field goal. So the Giants, to end the half, they drive down, get
another 30-yarder.
Another 30-yarder over the top to Darius Slayton, and those are Tyrod's 2 drop him in the bucket deep balls like he does on the sideline.
He used to do it to Sammy all the time.
And they drive down, they get it down there, they get to they get an interference in the end zone on Kyer Elam, because he was grabby, and that's what he does. and they get down to where it's first and goal with 14 seconds left. 14 seconds, first and goal. A good quarterback gets 3 pass attempts there and a field goal. Like, you can get 3 pass attempts and a field goal in 14 seconds.
And you have a mobile QB who can also present the option to scramble in from there.
And if you do rollout plays, you can still get 2 of those and a field goal in 14 seconds, because that's 5 or 6 seconds. But a 3-yard, like, just 3-step drop, pass the ball. And if it's not there, you throw it out of the corner. So the Bills presented a look where the option play that Tyrod Taylor had, the correct read anywhere, any other situational time, was to check to a run. You see him tap his helmet, you see him check. They hand it off to Saquon Barkley. He runs for no gain. And of course, with a gang tackle at the goal line, you're not going to be able to get back in formation to spike it on second down to get another pass player to take the field goal. And Brian Daboll lost his ever-loving mind. Rightfully, Brian Daboll lost his mind, because when you're an underdog, you can't give up the opportunity of going into the half up 2 scores and getting the ball coming out of the half. Just a ultimate brain fart by Tyrod Taylor, and a shame. For he played really well, but that one's he's gonna remember that.
Oh yeah, and again, like, their offense wasn't playing great. They had a few chunk plays that got them into field goal range, but they weren't also not hanging out in the red zone. They weren't putting together these drives. So having the opportunity to get there and put legitimate points on the board was all the difference in a game like this. And so, yeah, tough one for Tyrod there. And but kudos to the Bills for getting that run stuff still, and kudos to them for the heads up play. They were definitely adding to the time by keeping Barkley on the ground, kind of moseying around to get it back lined up.
Not
So
anything
heads up
like
play
over the line. Not anything over the line, but they definitely were taking their time properly.
A couple seconds is all the difference while that clock's running down, so nobody can spike it. So it was a heads up play in the situation for the Bills to get the run stuff and then not allow them to get the play set up. So you go into the half still feeling pretty good though, Greg, the way that goes, and knowing that you're just you got to score once and you're back in this game. Like, you can put all this, you can blast this whole half into the sun and never talk about it again if we just correct it and come out and do what the Bills can do. But unfortunately, it took a little longer to get there than I was hoping.
Yeah, so we come out of the half and are at risk where, hey, we're down 6 and we're giving them the ball. And I really wanted just a quick 3 and out where we didn't have to worry about anything. Right. Instead, they get a first down on the first play. Then they go Tyrod scrambles and Saquon runs for a first down, and they've got back-to-back first downs. They're already close to midfield.
Yep.
We then get an 11-yard. Wan'Dale Robinson really
had a nice.
Ended up with a nice game, and it was 8 for 62, but he was like consistently consistently in good position. Yeah. We end up getting a weird sack where Tyrod, the pressure from Terrell Bernard's blitz pushes like him back into the lap of where Tyrod tries to switch the ball in his hand, and Saquon picking up the blitz makes him switch his hand and he drops the ball. It wasn't actually caused by Bernard. At first I thought it was. At first I thought Bernard slapped it out, but it was Tyrod fumbling it himself, trying to switch hands, and then Dorian Williams kind of tapped him down when he was on the ground, and then he has to scramble again, and we end up causing a punt in a situation where they were over the line, they were over midfield, they were able to be in position, they probably could have gone up 3 scores, and we get the ball back. They actually have a nice punt us back at the 11, and for me, this is going to be my Western drive of the game. Nice. So all this time, we've now are towards the end of the third quarter.
Fastest quarter of football ever, maybe? Like, honestly.
Two drives. We didn't even finish the second drive. Yeah. The second drive, and
because all the running the Bills did, the clock just ran.
So the Giants had a 9-play, 39-yard, 5-minute drive. So 5 minutes and 8 seconds. Yeah. The Bills ended up having their longest drive since 2016. It went a full 10 minutes, taking up the entire rest of the third quarter. The Bills got the ball with 9:52 left in the third quarter, and they didn't score in the quarter, and they didn't give the ball back to the Giants. They went all the way into the fourth quarter to be able to score. So it was, I think 8 of the first 9 plays were runs. There was the one play action to Dawson Knox where they got it in there, but it was, Cook and Murray back and forth. Josh had a scramble and then did have a nice play
to Shakir, that 3rd and 2.
That was a really nice one, wide open because of the setup of all the run.
Also very Beasley-like on that little just release from the slot, and you can pick up a little bit of yards after catch there. Nice to see Shakir getting involved.
Yeah, and then they get it all the way down there. We get the ridiculous play with the 5 different fouls and Dion giving it to Kayvon Thibodeau, and then Dexter Lawrence got mad that he was giving it to Thibodeau, so he comes over. And then Spencer Brown gets in there, and Brown gets smoked by Lawrence, and then kind of gets up or backs away. And then I will say, Terry McAuley on the game broadcast went pretty quick to the idea that no one was going to get ejected.
Yeah.
And I was like, Leonard Williams was a pretty cheap blindside shot that I didn't expect him to get ejected, but I was like, I bet they're talking about it in New York. Like, that was completely after a player was separated from the scuffle, and you come out of nowhere and blindside him and knock him down and actually literally injure him and cause him to need to go into the injury tent. I actually thought maybe Leonard Williams was a touch worse than all the rest. The rest of the stuff was normal football, just crap.
Yeah.
Where you're just, jawing back and forth and it gets out of hand. But I thought his was a little bit cheaper than the other ones and maybe could have been more, but instead it was all offsetting penalties. We ran the ball a couple times and then did that nice orbit motion for a wide open walk-in touchdown to Deontay Hardy. So it ended up not mattering, but in the moment I was like, oh great, now we got Spencer Brown hurt too.
Yeah, in that moment, the refs also need to be careful because when I saw that one, I was like, oh man, now we're gonna have a fight. Like the first scuffles was like, okay, it's a scuffle, we'll break that up. And then when he comes out of nowhere and makes that push, and good on the Bills to I saw Josh Allen run in to get a little bit of the smoke, and then people started to pull some of the Bills players back because those are the moments though where after that Leonard Williams push, that's when okay, now you've gone too far, and you'll get guys running in and throwing punches and things like that. So luckily for the NFL, that didn't end up getting out of hand. And I hope that Spencer Brown is okay, but did look a little bit like the fake tough guy role that I pinned on him when you go to fight someone and then you get put on your ass. Not the best.
Twice?
Yeah.
You got pushed back twice. I want to give the one comment that just came up. I want to give Pat credit here. A lot of people missed it because he's so big and he kind of looks like an offensive lineman or a tight end coming in there.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, like Josh Allen hurling himself at like the combination of either Leonard Williams or Bobby Okereke. I love Josh so much. He's such a freaking idiot. Like, you literally launched your throwing shoulder into 2 enormous defenders, and it's because you're fighting for your teammates, and I love you so much. God, he's an idiot sometimes.
You can only be wired one way when you're a guy like that, and
he's wired the best way. The best way.
Yeah, you can't turn it off. It's just like the throwing into double coverage. Like it's just the thing that you have to live with Josh Allen to some extent.
Yeah, and
but that
Brian
Hardy
here
play,
asking the 3-1. Sorry, the last one thing on the fight.
Yeah.
Terry McAuley even joked, even if it's 10-1,
I know
10 fouls on the other team, 1 on you, it still offsets. There's not offset math. If you have 5 and they have 3, you don't get 2 penalties. If both teams have a penalty, they offset. The only difference is if one team has a personal foul and the other team has an in-play regular flag, which happened earlier in, I think, Jets-Eagles. There was one where the Jets thought they had the offsides with Zach Wilson, and he did. But then there was also a personal foul for the crackback block. And that one, because a personal foul overcome. That's the only time it doesn't offset, which I don't know exactly. I guess I understand the personal foul is more egregious. It's a little weird. But when both teams have unnecessary roughness or both teams have personal fouls, they both offset no matter how many there are.
I hate it a little bit. And I also wish that New York would have sorted this out a little better, because when they were able to actually look at the review, slow it down, look at it, Kayvon Thibodeau was being too much extra at the end of that play. He was shoving the whole helmet of Deion Dawkins, trying to rip his helmet off, and that's why Deion responded. And I don't know that you should penalize a guy in that situation for the response, even though the response trickled into other things. So I don't even know that I sound so homery right now, but I don't know that the Bills players actually did anything to bring them the penalties where it really was initiated on the Giant side.
You can make an argument that the only 3 penalized players were Lawrence, Williams,
It
and
looked that
Thibodeau.
way to me. And so when I heard the offsetting, is like, man, like it felt like such a one-sided situation for me in that moment. Obviously, it didn't end up mattering.
And I will say, even if that was the case, we were already first and goal at the 2.
Yeah.
It would have just been first and goal at the 1. Like, it wouldn't have actually made any difference.
No, it just bothers me the way the NFL
correct. Yeah,
called
the
those.
principle of it would have felt better.
Correct.
If we would have had first and goal at the 1 instead of first and goal at the 2. So it wouldn't have made any actual difference. And Latavius Murray would have scored on his one run where he was almost untouched and just barely fell at
Did
like
he
the
get
1
touched
yard line.
on?
I
don't
never
think
saw
he
a
did.
great replay. It might have been tripped over like a Bills like lineman's leg.
But whatever, again, doesn't.
But if he
ultimately matter.
scored, we wouldn't have gotten the satisfaction of we've tried that orbit motion play so many times. And like the one play on the, I think it was a 2-point conversion, Deontay Hardy tripped coming out of the orbit motion and still almost scored. This one, seeing it work perfectly and him just trot into the end zone was great, because they've tried to set that up, and I like when they go back to things that you've seen them set up the progression of. So that was encouraging.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy with that, and Ken Dorsey is gonna have a rough week. I hope he doesn't
deservedly.
He should not do what Tyrell Dotson does and go look up his name on the internet. Ken Dorsey should not search his name on Twitter this week. It's not gonna be good, but at least in that moment, to go back to that, knowing that you can get that look and set up and get Hardy going. Like, it was good to see him get something and get in the end zone. So I'll give Dorsey one flower for that. A single flower.
And we have, I will say, we made fun of the production in the first half. It's always hard to figure out how big of a slice of pie. Josh wasn't perfect, had some throws that were off. The line wasn't quite figuring out when Martindale, I think we were prepared for Martindale to send the house, and he didn't. And when he picked and chose when to send blitzes, we weren't picking up on it. There were some really good run blitzes that they hit on. And Dorsey just could not get a rhythm going. We had a weird mix of, we'd get some under center stuff going and some really good play action, and then we'd go right back to the shotgun and right back to the shotgun runs. And some of those were really ugly. Admittedly, the back-to-back 14-yarders that James Cook had on the one drive, I think both of those were out of shotgun.
A couple
and were shotgun draw
too. And I forget,
so they did work sometimes. Just the not getting the rhythm and consistency of setting up, seeing some of the easier stuff. That really nice one to Shakir and the really nice one, the orbit motion to Hardy, where it was like, hey, those were schemed open, easy plays. Why am I only thinking 2 examples? Why can't there be more than 2?
I'm glad this RJ comment got brought up on the inches and goal line. You run out of shotgun, a fireable offense. I will say, and Eric tweeted about this, there was one where they ran out of pistol, not shotgun. I don't hate that. I don't hate pistol in the goal line on the red zone. Playing the results of it getting stuffed is a weird way to play it, because Josh Allen has had success at a pistol in the red zone before, and it puts him in play as a runner, which I love. Josh, like, I know we don't want to do a lot of design QB runs, and they really haven't been with Josh Allen, but those are the situations where I want it in play, and putting him in pistol with a big back, with a tight end, that puts a lot of things in play where, again, to your point of setting it up, we will see that again doing, and Chuck's saying it right here, pistol is greater than shotgun inside the 5. And I think a lot of people saw them line up in pistol and think it was shotgun, but I think that what people were mostly mad at was that one where they were in pistol and it didn't end up working, but they will come back to it. So don't get mad when you see it in the red zone, because it is going to put some options in play that are really efficient red zone offenses.
Yeah. So there are plays that can work. I also think we take for granted every team doesn't execute the brotherly shove, tush push play the same. And Mitch Morse is a really good center, but he's not a big, powerful center. It's not the same as having Jason Kelsey or some other guys who are bigger and thicker. That it's a little different to run that play. I still think we could lean into that more.
Mhm.
Josh is so big and powerful. You can put Gilliam and Knox behind him. And I just don't know that that's going to get pushed back an awful lot. I think that, Morse can snap it and then just kind of like burrow forward and
It
not
might have
get
been
pushed
also
back.
concern of potential injury to Josh, not wanting to
Sure,
put him in a
he had
situation
dinged up
like
his
that.
shoulder. There's a
We don't
lot
know.
of factors where it's not as simple. I would like to see it a little more. And
Mhm.
to be fair, maybe we will in the playoffs. Maybe we will later in the season in some critical moments. But
And to be
I
fair,
think we could lean into it more.
most times I've seen Latavius Murray touch the ball for the Bills when he gets a running start. I haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
people be able to stop him. So the fact that
Yeah.
he got stopped, like that's tough to see. But I'm going to that enough times where I think that
And
he's gonna get it.
he got stuffed because of a timely run blitz
Yeah,
from Wink Martindale that cut around the outside.
yeah,
Otherwise, if you look, he was going to score. Like, it
yeah.
was right there. The blocking scheme worked. It's just a guy cut around the outside with a really well timed run blitz.
Yep.
So we scored there. Both of us had it as our West Her drive of the game. It was 7-6, and I won't lie. In my head, I was like, all right. Thankfully, we put these guys away. Now we can maybe put up another score, make it look easier. It won't be a big deal. And instead, the Giants actually had their only sustained drive of the game,
Hmm.
9 plays, 79 yards. And we'll talk about the ending here in a bit. We're probably lucky that it didn't turn into a touchdown because the Giants ran the same wham play like 6 straight plays, and we just were not prepared for this weird one run. And Saquon Barkley is an awesome athlete and was kind of shot out of a gun on the
Yep.
first two. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? And they run the ball multiple times, get it down to 4th and 1 at the 11, where you've just ran the ball for 7 straight plays and then did have one pass, but you've effectively ran the ball that whole time. You're the underdog. I get it that a field goal gives you the lead back, but did you really feel like, oh, the Bills aren't going to score again? Like, it just, I would bet after the fact that Daboll wants that one back, and that,
Hmm.
like, wouldn't you have just run that same play again? You know that we couldn't make adjustments mid drive. Like, we only can do so much with it. I can't believe they did not run that same play again on 4th and 1. I can't.
Yeah, I really thought they were gonna go for it there. You have nothing to
I,
lose, right? Like you're
eh,
already your season's not total.
you're already 1-4.
Yeah, you're 1-4. Your season's kind of you want to rally your team and fight for them, and you're on the road and it's Sunday night football. I think the right call there, and this is what Daboll was known for last year, right? Like
Yeah.
having the guts to do those types of calls. And so I did anticipate that they would go for it on 4th, have it in my notes, and I think getting the field goal there, huge win for the Bills.
Yeah, so they get a hold. They do give up the lead, and it's 9-7 Giants, and the Bills come back here with back-to-back touchdown drives in a critical spot. They go down. This one has a I think a fortunate conversion at one point with Adoree Jackson got called for a hold that
Hmm.
we probably would have been mad if got called. Like, he did grab a little bit of the jersey, but it wasn't egregious.
Sure, but we had
Um,
a couple of those too. I think Terrell
sure.
Bernard's late in the game was a bit of
Yeah,
ticky tacky on Waller there.
wasn't terrible. Um, this was one of the first times Josh went back to Diggs. We had kind of gone away from that a little bit here. Went to James Cook, back to Diggs again, back to Cook, and then had a nice play to Knox, and you're working your way down the field, and Josh rolls out, and we know those plays so well, especially when he's rolling to his right, and he has all that momentum going, and he stops and he fires it back, and just an absolute laser. 15 yards. He's probably about almost 20 yards down the field. And Quentin Morris had a split second between two defenders closing,
Mhm.
and Josh impaled him with the football. And you could hear like the absolute disbelief in Chris Collinsworth's voice that it was just one of those alien plays where like, holy crap, that's a
Yeah.
ridiculous throw.
And this is where we say it all the time. This is where the arm strength really shines. It's not
Yes.
the 70-yard bombs. Those are fun. Those are cool where he just chucks it downfield. But in these tight situations where the field gets tighter and the coverage gets tighter, we see it time and time again. I remember back to that Denver game years ago where he just put a ball and just Simmons couldn't even, like, he made a great
Yeah.
play and just was still a step late because that
I think
ball
that one was Kumaro, if I remember right.
Yes, it was a touchdown to
Yeah,
Kumaro, and
yeah.
and same thing, like, Kumaro just turned around and the ball was just, like, plastered into his hands. He just
And no, I don't know. I wish I knew his name. Number 27 on the Giants. I remember Justin Simmons having
Yeah.
that like putting his
exactly,
hands up
I
afterwards.
had
Like,
that play.
how did I miss that? You can see 27 on the Giants. Like he literally stomped his feet and had a little bit of a tantrum
Yeah.
after because he thought he had an
He made a
interception
great play.
and the ball just went whew, and just
Yeah.
flew by him. It's unbelievable.
And it looks effortless. That's the
Yeah.
biggest part of it is doesn't look like he's throwing it with everything he has, and the zip that just comes through with it. That's where that great arm strength really comes into play, though, in those tight spots in the red zone.
Yeah, so we get that score. We're up 14-9, and again, same as the previous touchdown drive. I'm like, all right, okay, we got this. Let's just kind of wrap it up here.
This was
The
almost my drive of the game
okay,
here for the
okay,
defense. I was real close to picking this one for the defense because you have to get a stop here, right?
yeah, and you go. It's 3 minutes and 48 seconds. They have a chance to move down. You first get they get another one to Wan'Dale Robinson. We get a stuff on Saquon Barkley where Terrell Bernard has now. We've been on the sideline. Sean McDermott makes an adjustment to that play, and the adjustment is do not wait in your spot. Fire your gun. Come downhill. Terrell Bernard shoots the gap and just. I mean, honestly, he might have taken more of the blow than Saquon Barkley did because you could see him like Saquon's bigger than Terrell
Mhm.
Bernard, and you could see Bernard hit him, and like he kind of fell back and was like, "Oh," and you could tell it kind of sucked, but it was an awesome
It
play. Hits him for a 1-yard loss and really set the tone for that drive.
like a Milano, Taron Johnson type play. When
Yes.
those types of guys pull the trigger and they fire in the whole, like, it's very special to watch them
Yeah.
recognize that play, pull the trigger, and just go. Not a lot of guys are wired that way, especially undersized guys. It's hard to be an undersized guy and take on a hit like Saquon. Like, you can really hurt yourself. And so I love to see that and getting that big stop there.
Then they come back. Tyrod hits Darren Waller for the first down,
Mhm.
goes back to Waller again for another 5. We get the stuff on Barkley out on the side. This was where it's kind of like a
Group.
weird,
Nice big stop
jumbled
there.
rush at the end, at the second quarter, end of the 2-minute warning, where they had to snap the ball because otherwise they would have got to delay a game.
Right.
But they weren't quite ready, and you could tell not everybody thought they were going to snap the ball. And Groot strings it out and hits Barkley for a nice loss and sets up 3rd and 8 coming out of the 2-minute drill. And here, credit to Tyrod, he hangs in there and takes a big shot from Leonard Floyd.
Was humming for him.
Whew, and tries to hit Jalen Hyatt down the side, and honestly had a pretty decent shot at it.
Mhm.
And they
And
get it
Kyer,
to,
good coverage. That was there's
yes,
that one
that's
flower
his
for
best play,
Kyer too.
for
He
sure.
had some
His best
coverage
play of the
down
game.
there, and that's where you wanted that's the athleticism, right? Because Hyatt's a
Yeah,
burner.
Jalen Hyatt's
and-
crazy fast.
Yeah,
Crazy
yeah.
fast.
And so having a guy that can hang with him downfield was probably the reason that he didn't get benched in that game, was having somebody that could hang
Yeah.
with that type of speed.
Yeah, so and then you're in a weird spot here where, okay, you're down 14-9. Do you take a long field goal? Like, that doesn't really help you, so you have to go for it. They take another shot. This one, Christian Benford had perfect coverage,
Mhm.
didn't shoot his hands in there until the ball got there, knocked it away from Slayton. And honestly, I think, and there was a comment earlier in the chat, I was like, okay, all right, the game's over. Everything's good. We now have the ball at their 38.
Yeah.
I was like, just hand off the ball.
That's why I
three
almost put this as the
times.
drive of the game, because
Just
I thought that was like game, set, match.
Yeah.
We've wrap it up. We'll go home, but
we're not allowed to have nice, easy things. It's just not the way that it works.
man,
So we come out jumbo set, and it's fine when they know you're going to run. It's not the exact same thing. I'd like a little bit more, but it's fine.
yeah.
Latavius Murray, 1-yard gain. Giants take their first time out. Again, Latavius Murray, no gain. Giants take their second timeout. You're at the Giant 36. I think everybody was expecting a run, which is why this is a really good play call. They call a naked bootleg, which kudos, of course he did. Eric called this in our staff chat of like, hey, it's perfect timing for a naked bootleg and the leak play from Dawson Knox. It's exactly what they run. The Giants were not ready for it. Josh was rolling out, kind of had I don't know who it was. It was probably Okereke, because of course it would have been.
He's everywhere.
Someone was kind of stringing along with Josh that made him. It wasn't quite the easy just like step into it and lob play. He kind of had to like pump at it and reset himself, and then you could tell it was in his head. Don't rifle this in there. Don't overthrow it. And instead, he put it close enough that Dawson Knox should have still caught the ball, but a little short, like a yard short, a foot short of where it needed to be. Dawson had to like stop and come back and try to catch it, and did get two hands on it, but couldn't secure the catch. It would have ended the game. It was a perfect play call. Again, probably one of only 3 flowers that Ken Dorsey deserves on the day. He was bad overall on the day, but that was a great play call in that spot. The Giants weren't ready for it. Josh and Dawson didn't execute.
Yeah. To steal from Bruce Nolan's plurality pie, there's a lot more of that pie on that play to Josh than there is to Knox. I think a lot of people are going to be mad at Knox because there's historical drops in Knox's career. That would have been an incredible catch. He went down to, even though you got 2 hands on it, I think everyone thinks, oh, you get your hands on it, you got to catch it. It was hard. Go back and watch what he had to do. I'm not going to. Yes, I want him to catch that one. It would have sealed the game. I'm not going to knock Knox for not being able to catch that one. Josh has to put that in a catchable position for him. If he has that ball up 3 feet more, that is game over, set match. But to have him go low like that, and even to make an attempt where he got both hands on it and made it almost grab, good on him. That's a huge athletic play. But to expect him to make that catch, I don't know. Not a lot of guys are making that.
So then to compound my misplaced frustration earlier on the first drive, the Bills lined up for another 53-yard field goal, and Tyler Bass pushed it literally the exact same amount right as the other missed field goal. You could have replayed the previous play and it looked identical, where it's kind of looks like it's going to be in, and then it slowly fades just outside the upright as the play goes on, which not only did that not put us 8 points, it also gave them the ball at the spot that we kicked it from. So they started at their own 43. They were almost at midfield. So with a minute 25 to go, minute 24 to go.
My life.
Correct. This took years off my life. A minute 24 to go, down 5. Tyrod Taylor comes down the field. It's Wan'Dale Robinson, it's Saquon Barkley, it's Darren Waller, it's Jalen Hyatt, and the Bills are keeping everything in front of them. They're doing the right things in general. When you're the better team, you don't throw the kitchen sink at them and give them a chance to break a big play because you're trusting that, hey, you're not going to be able to keep executing all the way down the field. They keep moving down. They keep moving down. They keep moving down. Eventually, they do get a really nice 4th down conversion to Jalen Hyatt. Now you're at, that was with 22 seconds left. So they took their last time out on one of their conversions where it was in the middle of the field. They're moving down. They have to spike the ball. They get another 1st down. They get it to 4th down where they have to convert, and they have to spike the ball again. So they're at the Bills 15 with 9 seconds left. Of course, the Bills take a timeout because we always do to set ourselves up. And it worked. Like it was it's fine in this spot. They try to get the ball to Darren Waller. They give Terrell Bernard a defensive pass interference penalty.
You've got to let him play in that moment.
Waller kind of sold it, and Bernard didn't look back. It was not an egregious defensive
and it was a late
pass interference.
Flag. After everybody fell, the ref pulls it out. It just drives me nuts at the end of
Yeah.
games that refs can put the ball on the goal line like this in this type of situation. I feel like it's almost like playoff basketball. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe there is a foul on the play, but you got to, in these end of game situations, if it's not totally crazy and he's pulling them down, and Waller could have still made that catch. Like, Bernard didn't
Yeah.
stop him from making that catch. And whether he
No.
sells it or not, there's got to be somebody in the booth that says, like, pick that flag up. Like, you
Yeah.
can't do this.
So they get one untimed down at the 1 yard line. It's technically zeros on the clock, but the game can't end on a defensive penalty. So they get one untimed down from the 1 yard line. I won't lie. Again, the same as the 4th and 1 on the previous one. It wouldn't have shocked me if they ran that wham play and they
Yeah.
just brought, whoever, Pugh or whoever was playing left tackle at the time across to pull and try to run. I wouldn't have minded if it was me having the ball in Saquon Barkley's hands. Instead, Tyrod actually puts it up where Darren Waller gets a hand on it. Taron Johnson makes a fantastic play, and the Buffalo Bills survive. And I don't think there's any other word for it here. The Buffalo Bills find a way to survive and advance and move on, and they retain the 14-9 victory, and it cost me like at least 3 years off my life.
Honestly, I turned 40 in January, but my real age will probably be like 46. Just because of the Bills, and my real genetic age. But this is the thing too, though, because then Taron probably had an equally pass interference play on that one.
Physicality,
He grabbed Darren Waller, and they held it that time. Like, that's the right thing to do, is not call that. I saw some people at Giants guys say, but oh, you got to call that one too. And it's like, man, these moments, Darren could have still made the play on the ball, right? Like, you're gonna have some touching in a moment like that. And so good on Darren. Always finds a way to make a big play when he's called on, and definitely that might have been the play of the game, right?
Oh, it really was a very timely, good defensive play, good on Taron. It's a shame that we were even in that position, and here the Bills scrape victory from the jaws of defeat. They tried awful hard to take some years off my life. But again, I brought it up at the beginning. I sent out that tweet. The top 4 Super Bowl favorites coming into the week were the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills. Those were the top 4 teams. All 4 teams were heavy favorites. All 4 teams played poorly. None of them played up to their previous standards. 2 of them found a way to win, and 2 of them didn't. And ultimately, that's what matters, is they found a way to win. There are now no undefeated teams in the NFL, and I think there are reasons for the Buffalo Bills fans to not have confidence, to be anxious, to have nervous mafia and all the different things that get thrown around, and the reason that there's so much anxiety with this fan base. But ultimately, there isn't any perfect teams in the NFL.
All teams go through this.
All of them have these games, and
even the
Bills now
Dynasty
had
Patriots. How many squeakers? How many squeaker games did Tom Brady and the Dynasty Patriots survive?
Yeah.
Right. It's gonna happen. The NFL is hard, man. This is why it's better than college football. You can have a game like this where you have by every analytical measure, the Giants are way worse than the Bills, and the spread should have been accurate, and Vegas had it right. And then you get in the game, and then you get a game that goes down to the final play of a game, because the NFL is tough and the margins are slim, and they're all going out there trying to win no matter what. Everybody says all these teams are tanking every year, right? Like, everybody's playing for quarterbacks and doing all this stuff. They all want to win these games. And so it's hard. You got to do it every single week. But yeah, you're right. We all make fun of Bill's Twitter for being so crazy. The team is what makes us crazy, and what makes Bill's Twitter crazy. Like, it's not just the people. They have legitimate concerns. And you got another game here coming up to get right again, and hopefully you give us a better show here next week and really stick it to the Patriots, because I don't want to go through another one of these, man, especially not to the Patriots.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of opportunity to be able to get yourself straightened out. The Bills will go on the road to Foxborough to play in New England against the reeling Patriots, who are 1-5 and looking pretty rough. Looked pretty rough against the Raiders here today. Had a moment where I actually thought they were going to come back and win the game, which I was kind of rooting for just for draft purposes. I don't want them to have
that
a top pick.
Safety to lose was pretty fun to watch.
It was
though, too.
very comical
Yeah.
for them to take a safety in a game-winning moment. It was very, very comical. And maybe we can end the Mac Jones era in New England. We'll
That'd
see.
be
So
fun.
Chuck, we appreciate you guys were awesome
Thanks,
here
man.
in the chat. If you have a moment before you head out here, just press the like button. Really appreciate it.
So far past my bedtime, Greg.
Yeah.
We're way late here tonight, so I appreciate everybody staying with us because
Yeah.
these ones are the tough ones to do.
Yeah.
Where it's not a fun game. It's gonna be a late night. So thank you everybody for coming in. Everybody's been pretty cool too in the chat, so I
Yes,
appreciate that. It's
correct.
been a tough night.
Yeah, you guys were awesome. This was a rough one. We appreciate you guys very, very much. Make sure you're checking out all the guys this week. I'm excited to see the film breakdown. I'm excited to be able to talk about all the different
Excited?
things. All right, that's a
I
lot.
want to see it.
I'm going to make myself watch this game again.
I want
and I'm going
answers.
to
I'm not excited to
see-
see the answers, but I do want to see some.
I
answers.
deserve and I demand answers.
Yeah.
I think I can handle the truth.
Yeah.
So we'll see where this goes. We're gonna have favorite Evan Lazar coming on to be able to hang out with us and preview Bills Patriots Wednesday night. So excited for that. See, Glenn is still up here with us. He's hanging out with us still and still awake. We appreciate all you guys very, very much. This has been a ton of fun. Appreciate our awesome producer Chris Kepner for managing all your guys' madness here in the chat and helping out with everything else that he does. But on behalf of Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to the Cover One Buffalo podcast, and we are